Okay, so let's go over this together. Hopefully you had some time to go through it yourself. You might even have to have listened to the track again. But let's go through this. Okay, so number one was done for us. My rent is going up again. What should I do? B, here's my advice. You are or you're a good tenant. I think you should talk to your landlord. So this is a pretty serious question, right? What should I do? What should I do about my rent, right? And it's pretty important because if you get this wrong, you might not have a place to live. So it's pretty important. So the advice should be very strong. Should. All right. All right. Let's move on. Number two. A. I have to fix my credit. What should I do? Okay. So the question is, what should I do? So the answer would normally be, you should talk to a debt counselor. He can help you, right? And there again is pretty strong advice because of a pretty important situation, okay? A pretty important problem requires a pretty important advice, okay? Number three, A, can you suggest a nice restaurant? It's my wife's birthday. So remember, this is suggest, right? Excuse me, suggestion. So I want some options, right? I just need to know where are some good places, some good restaurants, and then I can choose one of those, right? Can you suggest a nice restaurant? It's my wife's birthday. B, you could, I would say could, try Chow's. Or how about Anita's? Okay, so there I would put could. Number four, A, it's my niece's 16th birthday next week. What could I get her? Now this is could, right? The question is could. What could I get her? So my answer would be, why don't you get tickets to a concert? Or you could buy her a CD. Okay? Number five, A, that vocational school is very expensive. I can't afford it. Can you give me any advice? So this is pretty important. School is pretty important. Vocational school would be a school that's specifically for a type of occupation, right? So nursing school is a vocational school. Plumbing is a vocational school. Electricians go to vocational school. Things like that. Okay, these are for specific jobs, right? B, well, you're a good student. I think you should apply for a scholarship because this is pretty important. So my answer there would be, I think you should apply for a scholarship. Number six, A, I need a new car. Where do you suggest I look for one? Suggest. Now I'm asking for options, right? Because I'm pretty sure there's more places than one that you can go to get a new car. So my answer would be in B, how about looking in the newspaper? Or you could look online. All right. Number seven, A, I just got another parking ticket. It's getting harder and harder to park in this neighborhood. Now, that's this one is a little tricky, right? I just got another parking ticket. It's getting harder and harder to park in this neighborhood. I think this is kind of important, okay? Because he's getting parking tickets, this person is getting parking tickets, and it's getting harder and harder to park in the neighborhood. I think this is pretty important. So I think I would go with, I think you should sell that car. You don't really need it. Okay? Number 8. A. I'm going to be in New York City in July. Any ideas for things to do? So here again, I'm looking for options or suggestions. Okay, so it's not really as important as maybe something about a parking ticket, right? So my answer would be for B, well, you could see a Broadway show, or you could walk in Central Park, or you could go to a museum. There are so many things to do. Okay, so my answer for B would be could. All right, let's see what we got. All right, so number 2, I have to fix my credit. What should I do? You should talk to a debt counselor. He can help you. Number 3, can you suggest a nice restaurant? It's my wife's birthday. B, you could try Chow's, or how about Anita's? Number 4, it's my niece's 16th birthday next week. What could I get her? Why don't you get her tickets to a concert, or you could buy her a CD. Number 5, that vocational school is very expensive. I can't afford it. Can you give me any advice? Well, you're a good student. I think you should apply for a scholarship. Number 6, I need a new car. Where do you suggest I look for one? B, how about looking in the newspaper? Or you could look online. Number 7, I just got another parking ticket. It's getting harder and harder to park in this neighborhood. B, I think you should sell that car. You don't really need it. Number 8, I'm going to be in New York City in July. Any ideas for things to do? B, well, you could see a Broadway show, or you could walk in Central Park, or you could go to a museum. There are so many things to do. All right, so I hope you got all those right. If you didn't, and you have any questions about that, let me know, and we can go over this together. Or we can also talk about this exercise in our Zoom meetings, okay? Or you can always send me an email or a message on WhatsApp. All right. So let's move on to page 87. Okay, so we've been talking about modal verbs, could and should, right? Could is a suggestion, and could is a suggestion, and should is advice. Should is stronger advice than could. Okay, so we've looked at that, we've practiced it, okay, in a few examples. All right, so now let's use it. Let's talk with a partner and then take turns. Read the problems. Make suggestions or give advice. Okay, so suggestions would be could, and advice would be should. Okay. A, my car broke down. B, you could take the bus, or you could ask someone for a ride. Okay. So those are the kind of conversations we would have. These are the kind of questions or situations, right? Problems, and then B would be the conversation that we would have to make suggestions or give advice. So let's look at what we have here. All right, we have 8 pictures. Okay, the first picture is my car broke down. My car broke down. Okay, number 2 is my rent is going up. $150. That's a big increase. So this person looks like they just got an email that says that their rent is going up by $150. Number 3, the thermostat. It looks like a picture of a thermostat, right? It's getting cold in here. Yeah, 55 degrees, that's pretty cold. especially if it's Fahrenheit. Number 4, looks like a broken washing machine or dryer. Yeah. Number 4, I can't afford a new washing machine. Wow, yeah, that's pretty beat up. Looks like it fell off a truck. Number 5, looks like some really bad pair of shoes. So these shoes look terrible. These shoes look terrible. Number 6, you have some money on a table, some bread, some cheese, and milk. All right. I don't have enough cash to pay for these groceries. I don't have enough cash to pay for these groceries. And then number 7 is a picture of a person with a really messed up haircut. I would go ahead and shave all that off. That's just ridiculous. Number 7, I got a bad haircut. I got a bad haircut. That is true. Okay, number 8. Looks like somebody is in pain with their hands over their ears because the music is coming out of that wall too loud and the pictures are moving. So that's pretty bad. My neighbors are really noisy. My neighbors are really noisy. Okay, so let's go down. Now let's go back and go down the list and see what we have for advice for these situations. Number 1, I'm going to give you my advice, and then you can come up with your own, and let's see how we do. My car broke down, so that is pretty important. The answer they give is you could take a bus, or you could ask someone for a ride. All right. Number 2, my rent is going up. I would tell her you should talk to your landlord, right? You should talk to your landlord. Or I would say, to make it longer or more complete, you should talk to your landlord and ask him to lower your rent. You should talk to your landlord and ask him to lower your rent. Number 3, it's getting cold in here. My advice would be you should turn on the heat. You should turn on the heat. Number 4, I can't afford a new washing machine. My advice would be you could take your clothes to the laundromat. You could take your clothes to the laundromat. Number 5, these shoes look terrible. My advice would be you should buy new shoes. You should buy new shoes. And the reason I say should is because those shoes with the holes in them, they just, I mean, you can't really go out in public with that. That's pretty bad. So I would say this is pretty important advice. Number 6, I don't have enough cash to pay for these groceries. I don't have enough cash to pay for these groceries. I would say you could put some back and buy what you can afford. You could put some back and buy what you can afford. Okay. Number 7, I got a bad haircut. Yeah, you should shave your head bald, because that's just not, yeah. I'm going to give you 2 here. You should shave your head bald. You should go and get your money back. If this guy got this haircut from a barber, then he should get his money back. I don't know how he could even walk out like that. That's pretty bad. That's terrible. Yeah. So those are my two advice, and they're both should. Yeah, they're both should. Okay, number 8. My neighbors are really noisy. This again is important. So I would say you should go next door and tell them to turn the music down. You should go next door and tell them to turn the music down. So that's should. Okay? Alright, so that's what we have for B. Let's move on and continue to communicate, right? So this would be a good exercise for us for our Zoom meetings, right? Work in a small group, make suggestions, or give advice. All right. Here's a situation. Helene spends too much money. Helene spends too much money on food. Wow, she spends too much money on food. What advice would you give her? I guess I would say, if it was me, if Helene spends too much money on food, I would say Helene should save more of her money and buy less food. Should. Gregory spends too much money on clothes. Okay. My advice would be Gregory should save his money and spend less money on clothes. Teresa spends too much money on rent. My advice would be Teresa should look for another. Teresa should look for a cheaper place to live. Yusef spends too much money on his cell phone plan. I would say Yusef could reduce his cell phone plan and talk less. Melinda spends too much money on her car payments. Melinda could sell her car and take the bus. I say could. I don't really know what her situation is, so I say could. It's an option, but she might need the car for work and drives 20 miles to work every day. So in that case, if she spends too much money on her car payments, then she could sell her car and take the bus, or she could sell her car, right? She could sell her car and get a less expensive car. All right, so those are my ideas. When we get into our Zoom meetings, why don't you take some time to write down your ideas, your advice, could or should, and when we get into our Zoom meetings, let's talk about those ideas. All right, great. All right, any questions, please let me know. All right, let's move on.